So hey guys, how's it going? Just a video today. I want to talk a bit about some of the things we're seeing from liberals on social media in the last few weeks and really couple months. You know, the liberals, the party itself, the MPs, Justin Trudeau certainly, but its supporters on social media, they're running scared right now. You know, everything was looking great for them to win another majority going into 2019. But with the SNC scandal, with Justin Trudeau's foot-and-mouth incident after foot-and-mouth incident, with the handout to Loblaws, with the firing of an Indigenous Minister of Justice, with Justin Trudeau saying diversity only works with it when there is trust, with Justin Trudeau now siding with a Trumpian migration policy, all of these things are scaring liberals. Because whereas before they could say, you should vote for us because we're offering a progressive vision for Canada. Now, all they can say is you have to vote for us because if you don't, Andrew Scheer will win. So I just want to cover three key lies that you're seeing from Liberal Party supporters on social media and what can be said about them. The first is on electoral reform. On electoral reform, the Liberal Party supporters are trying to say that Justin Trudeau never lied. He had a good faith desire to implement reform, and if it wasn't for the gosh darn NDP and Conservatives and Greens, we'd have it right now, don't you know? But that's bullshit. Frankly, that's bull. The Liberal Party supporters on social media, they ignore a few key facts. One is that the Liberal Party, if they ever supported reform at all, only supported it in one instance, which is ranked ballots. Now, whether or not you think ranked ballots are the best system, you know, is a debate we can have. But the reality is that that's not a proportional system, and that during the official hearings on electoral reform, basically no experts supported ranked ballots. They saw, for example, many of the same flaws you see with first past the post, and that it creates minority rule, that it creates this situation where one party can have absolute power even though they don't command absolute support, that it tends to exaggerate the support of one or two parties over the others, even though the numbers and total votes don't bear out. There's a whole lot of problems with ranked ballots. But bigger than this is that the Liberal Party had a majority in the House of Commons, and they had a mandate for change. So Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, who promised, you know, upwards of 1,800 times to reform the system, they had a choice to implement something. They could have implemented ranked ballots, and maybe that would have been unpopular with all three of the other parties, the other major parties, you know, the Greens, the NDP, the Conservatives, maybe the Bloc as well. But they could have done it. They promised 1,800 times to end first past the post. They didn't specify which system. They could have done that. Or they could have worked with both the Greens and the NDP, who together would have represented, you know, well over half the seats in the House of Commons and well over a hefty majority of the total votes earned in the 2015 election, giving true legitimacy. And they could have implemented a proportional system, likely something like mixed member proportional. But they didn't. They chose to stick with first past the post. They chose to stick with it. And here's where this becomes all the uglier, because Liberal supporters who try to bury this reality and say that it's the NDP or the Greens or the Conservatives' fault that we don't have electoral reform, even though the Liberals have a majority, are now trying to play both sides of the card on this one. They say on the one hand, quoting Justin Trudeau, that we can't have proportional representation because it will lead to dangerous people getting elected. Justin Trudeau would say it would give radical voices too much space in our parliament. We can't have that. And yet liberals who parrot that view will subsequently say, well, you have to vote for Justin Trudeau because Andrew Scheer is so gosh darn dangerous. And you have to ask, what kind of system allows somebody so conservative, so dangerous, so unrepresentative of the will of Canadians, somebody that scares liberals so much? Why do we have a system that allows him to potentially have absolute power with 38, 39, 40% of the vote? And only first past the post could do that. If we had proportional representation in Ontario, Doug Ford may be premier right now, but he wouldn't have the ability to run wild over all of the work that's been done over generations, you know, progress on education and healthcare and things like that. he would need to, at least on issue-by-issue basis, get support from either the Greens or the NDP or Liberals or a combination of the three. That's the reality. So don't let Liberals hold you hostage on the strategic voting question, because it's their fault that, you know, we have a system that will allow Andrew Scheer to potentially win with 40% of the vote. Another lie they're telling is that, you know, especially since the SNC affair, that the Conservatives and the NDP are forming a kind of unholy alliance against Justin Trudeau, and that the NDP is desperate and they just want power and they're willing to sell out progressives to do it. And again, that's bull. 100%. They seem to think that because Jagmeet Singh and Andrew Scheer happen to agree in very broad terms that something inappropriate happened with regard to snc-lavalin, that they are political allies. And that's just not true. Further to that, while Andrew Scheer has perhaps been hyperbolic in his calls, you know, calling for Justin Trudeau to resign outright, Jagmeet Singh has remained rather even keel, making a consistent claim for, you know, a national inquiry, saying that we need to get to the bottom of this. We need a nonpartisan, fully detailed approach that will allow all the players involved to testify openly and clearly. And that, you know, instead of a justice committee system that, you know, ultimately is controlled on partisan lines. And therefore, you know, it's difficult for us to get the truth when it conflicts with the desires of the Liberal Party, who control the majority of that committee. So in a sense, we need to kind of challenge this idea. The NDP and Conservatives are not united. But you know who is united on many an issue? It's Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer. Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer both support Trumpian migration policies. They both support closing down the border. They refuse to acknowledge that Trump has made America unsafe for refugees and that Canada needs to recognize this. Only the NDP of the major three parties wants to recognize that we can't just see the United States as a safe country for refugees as it has been historically. Under Trump, it isn't. The Liberals and Conservatives ignore that. The NDP wants to protect pensioners and protect the benefits of retired workers when companies go bankrupt. The Liberals and Conservatives, in unison, want to put forward a vision that you know, we have to protect investors and CEOs first and foremost. Workers need to be at the back of the line. You know, Bob Bertina, Hamilton MP, you know, told steelworkers and pensioners to F off when they raised this with him. Justin Trudeau's done nothing to protect those workers. Nothing to protect those retirees. Justin Trudeau and the Conservatives, Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer, they've united against the fundamental charter right to bargain collectively and strike of postal workers. Against, again, the NDP being, you know, on the side of working people. Justin Trudeau saying that, you know, the charter doesn't apply here, I guess, or that charter rights aren't as important as Amazon's desires. And even Indigenous people, on things like Indigenous housing, the NDP had a motion to build, you know, housing initiatives for Indigenous communities, and Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer and their parties rejected it outright. So on more than one issue, it's not the NDP and Conservatives versus the Liberals, or the NDP and the Liberals versus the Conservatives. It's the Conservatives and Liberals versus the NDP. So progressives have to ask themselves, when it's really like, who is going to stand up to the Conservative Party? Maybe it's the party that has consistent, you know, divergent values with that Conservative Party, and not the one that, while divergent on some issues, ultimately represents the same kind of corporate, you know, capitalist elite. And I guess the final lie that Liberal Party supporters will tell you is that, you know, the Liberals are the only pragmatic progressive option. And this ties in with the, you know, electoral reform issue. This ties in with the fact that it's like, well, it's either us or Scheer. But it has to be said that, you know, our system is in flux. Justin Trudeau is in third place well before that 2015 election and ended up winning. There's no reason that the same can't happen for Jagmeet Singh. There's no reason. And so people have to ask, why do we have to ordain Justin Trudeau as the only progressive option? Why do we even have to consider him as progressive when we outline that he aligns with Andrew Scheer on so many, many key issues? He even aligns with Donald Trump on some. What's strategic about supporting a prime minister who doesn't see Trump as dangerous to refugees, who hands out millions of dollars to Loblaws, who protects a company that's made illegal donations to the Liberal Party, that doesn't recognize the right to strike and bargain collectively as charter rights as the Supreme Court has, that doesn't want to protect pensioners over CEOs and investors, and that doesn't give a damn about Indigenous people. Let's be frank here. And Romeo Saganesh was right. Justin Trudeau doesn't care about Indigenous people. What's strategic or progressive about supporting that party? And the answer is nothing. So again, progressives, you're going to get a lot of bullying on social media, frankly, from liberals who are very desperate. Because the only thing they have right now is to keep you hostage. So challenge these lies. The Liberal Party killed electoral reform, and now they want to hold you hostage. The Liberal Party, and not the NDP, are the ones most often aligning with Andrew Scheer. And the Liberal Party is neither the only progressive option, nor are they actually progressive. That's the reality, folks. So let's move forward. Let's stand strong together, and let's challenge these narratives when they get pushed at us. Because during this election, it's going to get ugly. Because when liberals are desperate, they get very arrogant and very entitled. And so progressives need to stand firm and say, look, you had 4 years to offer a meaningful change to Canada, and you failed. It's Jagmeet's turn.